I've got a question. Have you ever felt the sting of exclusion in your personal or professional life? Why did it happen? Was it an isolated incident or persistent one related to your identity? How did you respond? How did your colleagues and employer respond? During the next few weeks, we'll explore why some people are othered, others seem to just click, and why it matters. Your real roofing learning journey begins now. This course from National Women in Roofing aims to move the entire roofing industry towards greater equity, diversity, and inclusion. And we'll move forward together, one easy micro-learning lesson at a time. Let's do this. More and more, organizations are paying attention to diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, in the workplace. All the attention on research studies, terms, choices, and potential landmines can feel overwhelming for anyone on a personal level, and even more so for leaders of teams and organizations. That's why the lessons in this course feature concepts that are intentionally accessible and foundational. The idea is that in just 20 minutes a day, we can create a solid and shared understanding. What you'll learn will help you ensure your organization is a supportive and engaging place to work for people of every background and identity.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion requires understanding and respecting differences and similarities between people and cultures to create a positive climate. If you are early in your journey of exploring DEI, like many of us are, a useful place to begin is by understanding these core concepts. While they are interconnected and mutually reinforcing, I encourage you to resist the urge to use them interchangeably. For this lesson, we've synthesized definitions of our concepts from the resources of several leading educators and practitioners in the field. Understanding the meaning of these terms individually and collectively can help to create a shared foundation within your workplace or team. That foundation is critical before we start laying on the heavier brickwork. Maybe you're thinking this is information you already know. If so, consider this a quick refresher. Also consider this. Studies show that many of us don't really know what these terms mean. We are often reluctant to admit this at work, often out of fear, and instead avoid conversations about them altogether. If that's you, you're not alone, and you can rest assured that this is a judgment-free zone.
To get started, let's consider one of the most frequently used terms, diversity. Diversity, simply put, refers to the presence of differences that occur among any and all individuals within a given setting, group, or organization. Those differences can be psychological, physical, social, cultural, and beyond. In the context of discussions about people and values, diversity is an acknowledgement, some might even say a celebration of all the ways in which people are different from one another. Focusing on diversity is about empowering people by respecting and appreciating what makes each of us unique and therefore different. Diverse representation of different social identities and groups is an important and extremely valuable trait for teams and organizations. The broadest definition of identity includes many characteristics of difference, but certain attributes such as race and ethnicity, gender, nationality, and sexual orientation are more salient considerations than others in most workplaces. That's because, in this context, diversity refers to attributes where certain groups of people are more often underrepresented, such as people who are women, Black, gay, transgender, or have a disability. When it comes to the workplace, These attributes represent protected classes in federal anti-discrimination law.
Diversity is also closely related to the concept of representation. We all bring different perspectives to the table, different ways of seeing the world. They're all informed by our experiences and our identities. Diverse representation, where diversity is maximized to reflect the demographics of the population and consumer, is ideally what we'd see across roles and position levels. Too often, that is not the case. And that is one reason leaders prioritize DEI initiatives. Representation matters, but should not be confused with tokenism, as is often the case. The difference between representation and tokenism comes down to the intent. Are you asking this person to join your team because you want your team to appear diverse? Or are you afraid your board or your leadership is starting to appear too white and too male-dominated? Or do you actually want this person on your team because they are equally or more capable than those team members you already have? You value their different perspectives, and you're being intentional about balancing power and access to opportunities in your industry and organization.
Like tokenism, the concept of diversity of thought can also take you off course. I want to offer you this tip. Diversity of thought is the idea that people don't need to look different or identify with an underrepresented group in order to advance diversity. Diversity of thought is one outcome of successful DEI efforts, but focusing on it is a common distraction that shifts attention from the real reasons and the harder work most organizations need to be focused on in the first place. One more important distinction to keep in mind is that diversity is about a collective or a group. Diversity can only exist in relationship to others. That means a team can be diverse, and so can an organization, but not an individual person. That's right. In spite of the frequent misuse of the term, an individual team member or candidate is not diverse. They are a unique individual. If and when we say a person is diverse, it begs the question, diverse from whom? And reinforces a social hierarchy that places that person in an outgroup based on one visible attribute, regardless of similarities they may also share.
Let's talk about the E in DEI next. Equity is a term used to describe a state in which all people would receive the resources they uniquely need to have the same chance at success. Similar to equality, equity seeks to promote fairness. While equality presumes that everyone comes from the same starting point in terms of access to resources, opportunity, and barriers, equity acknowledges that not everyone does. Equity takes into account that people have different access to resources because of systems of oppression, power, and privilege. Equity seeks to balance that disparity. It prioritizes efforts to ensure that most underserved and marginalized among us have such an opportunity to succeed as the most well-served and advantaged. This means that resources may be divided and shared unequally to make sure that each person of the same potential has an equally fair chance to succeed. Improving equity involves increasing justice and fairness within our organization. The definition of equity has evolved in use to also acknowledge that those differences and starting points are perpetuated and carried out by systems, institutions, policies, and laws, not just historically, but also those being made even today. Tackling equity requires leadership to support transparent, disaggregated, data-driven examination of outcome disparities within your organization. This is the best way to uncover the existence of inequities, determine root causes of them, and formulate tactics to address them. By taking into account the various advantages and disadvantages that people face, we work to ensure every person really does have an equal opportunity to succeed. When it comes to equity, it is wise to remember talent is evenly distributed, opportunity is not.
One of the most pervasive challenges to equity in America occurs along the lines of race. Racial equity is a state in which people of all racial and ethnic backgrounds would receive the resources they need to have a fair chance at success. It acknowledges that people of color, especially Black Americans, face deeply entrenched barriers to success due to racism, conscious and unconscious biases, and systematic failures. It also acknowledges that the more dominant identities one has, such as being white, cisgendered, heterosexual, or male, the more likely we are to experience deeply entrenched advantages that give us a leg up in America, whether we realize it or not. Racial equity means one's racial identity no longer predicts, in any statistical sense, how one fares in the roofing workforce broadly and in your organization specifically.
Sonali De Silva once said, "Judgment can afford to be lazy. Inclusion is a skill that takes courage, empathy, and practice." Where diversity is a fact that can be achieved or not, inclusion is an ongoing act. It is a process, not a static state of being. Inclusion is a dynamic state in which diversity is leveraged to create a healthy, high-performing organization and community. It refers to the degree to which every individual is able to fully and fairly participate in the decision-making processes and power structures within an organization or group. An inclusive environment ensures equitable access to resources and opportunities for all. It also ensures every individual and identity group is equally safe, respected, engaged, motivated, valued, and rewarded for who they are and for their contributions. By this definition, it becomes clear that while an inclusive group is by definition diverse, a diverse group is not always inclusive. When an organization is diverse and not inclusive, it often results in lower engagement and underrepresented groups, higher turnover, and increased opportunity costs from failing to leverage the contributions of your best attainable talent. Being aware of how and when bias, microaggressions, prejudice, and discrimination are impacting workplace behaviors can help organizations better address issues of inclusivity. Now that you have a basic overview of considerations related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, you're ready to continue expanding upon this knowledge.